This ain't Star Wars Dark Souls. It's actually Star Charted Secure Wars The Phantom Metroid Raider. How lucky. How lucky.
No, 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 no! No, no, no! No, 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 no! No, no, no!
Going into this game, I was cautiously optimistic, with Respawn developing it, who has a great track record recently, with Apex Legends, Titanfall 2, Apex Legends, even with all the weirdness leading up to the game, like the comments about writing a male lead more because of the fact that Rey was the main character and she was a lady, or making Callie human because gamers can't relate to aliens.
Yes, we talked about doing an alien creature. I mean, we talked about different gender. We arrived at where we were because at the time, Rey was kind of the thing for Star Wars. So it made a lot more sense for us to have a male protagonist. And ultimately, we didn't go with the alien race because we felt like, no pun intended, that would alienate a lot of people.
Even with the gameplay reveal looking like it could very well be full of boring Uncharted climbing and Tomb Raider squeezing, I still kept my mind wide open, gripping my Doshin tight. Now before we get into this, yes, I know this wasn't supposed to even be a Star Wars game until sometime in 2017. It was originally just going to be a third-person melee action game that Respawn was already developing, and then Star Wars things happened, so there was less time to implement certain things, and they were on probably more of a crunch than they wanted to be, and EA was probably pushing this game out a lot faster due to The Mandalorian coming out, the holiday season, and Episode 9.
You really are working on these things until they basically rip the disc out of your hands.
But I played and am going to review this game as if none of that happened because I paid $60 for this goddamn game. I'm saving the story for last, but be warned, there's gonna be spoilers for the story or whatever. Alright, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. Everyone thought the same thing when they showed the combat for the first time. Oh man, this gameplay looks exactly like Jedi power battles. You got timed blaster deflection, you level up and buy new combos that you probably won't use, you start skipping combat once you're halfway through the game, you got a dumb looking double jump in midair that's totally not realistic, hitting people with a lightsaber looks like you're hitting somebody with a baseball bat, you meet Darth Vader, sadly it's a Carbonite copy of the game. Oh, I guess it looks like Dark Souls too. This is Blighttown. But this ain't Star Wars Dark Souls. It's Sekiro. Like, specifically really Sekiro. Fallen Order has Z targeting, similar dodging, light, heavy, sprinting, and plunging attacks, infinite sprinting, meditation spots where you enter the fog dimension to learn skills, heal, respawn, entertainment, enemy, nah, that's stupid, what the fuck. Emphasis on parrying and deflection timing, the literal posture bar, Shinobi execution. Falling to your death just chunks your HP instead of killing you. You got Cal Estus flasks. And you're not a space alien or a woman. Saying that, I want to get into the last similarity to Sekiro, is that it's more of a character action game than a traditional Soulsborne game that FromSoft would make. There are no stats, weapons, or armor to customize, so there are no traditional character builds. This isn't bad though. Sekiro has a number of skill trees, ninja prosthetics, and ninjutsu, and quick items to use or buff yourself in different situations. But in Fallen Order, your combat options are more limited, so the lack of attributes, items, and loot becomes magnified. To strengthen my point, I'm going to compare the active combat abilities that you can unlock in both Fallen Order and Sekiro. And since Fallen Order tries to copy Sekiro's combat system so closely, I'm gonna consider this fair game. And just to make things simpler, I'm not counting passive or latent skills, like max HP or damage boosts. First of all, with skill trees, Fallen Order has one big skill tree, Sekiro has 5 medium-sized skill trees, 1 prosthetic upgrade tree. In Fallen Order, there are 13 lightsaber skills. And I'm being generous and including agile deflection, which just deflects blasters while you sprint, because Sekiro has 29 combat arts total. Then when it comes to 4 skills, Fallen Order has 7. Again, not including the basic 3, but if we include that, sure, 10. And then the alternate to Sekiro would probably be prosthetics, which there are 10 total, unless you include all the upgrades and variants, which that 10 turns into 39. Oh, and then you got 3 ninjutsus. So when it comes to active abilities that you can learn somewhere, situational or not, Sekiro pound for pound has 71 options compared to Fallen Order's 20. Not to mention Sekiro also has quick items that enhance the gameplay in different ways. Buff your weapons, heal yourself, give yourself a hard mode thing, distract people with this thing. In Fallen Order, you don't even get a frag grenade or a thermal debt. See, when you omit certain items and armor and weapon customization, you need these options so your playstyle and your skill path becomes your build. This is why the lack of traditional stats, weapons, and armor works in Sekiro's favor. There's so many different optional skill trees to go down, and you can seek out optional prosthetics, or hell, you can flat out miss prosthetics if you're not thorough enough in your exploration. Whereas in Fallen Order, if you are thorough at all in your investigation of the world, you're not rewarded really at all. We'll talk more about that later. And the lack of options of combat skills are even more disappointing when you consider how many passive abilities are on this skill tree. The pairing's also like Sekiro with the addition of deflecting blaster bolts at people. In Fallen Order, the parries are far more lenient than the game it takes after, so you can block much earlier and still get a parry, depending on the difficulty you picked. The difficulty modes adjust a few parameters, but also adjust the parry windows. Seems like they really listened to the feedback from Sekiro's difficulty controversy. Remember when Sekiro came out and the parrying was actually easier than other FromSoft games? But they took out armor builds without adding any easy modes, so people started freaking out because people usually do armor builds. So it blew up in controversy over not having an easy mode. Well, they still don't give a fuck, but Respawn listened. The hardest mode, Jedi Grandmaster, has about the same parry timing as Sekiro, about 30 frames. Then you can tune the difficulty down, which gives you bigger windows, all the way up to story mode difficulty where you can hit block when an enemy's attack animation hasn't even started and you still parry it. For some perspective, Fallen Order and Jedi Grandmaster mode have about a 30 frame window. Sekiro is also 30 frames. Dark Souls 3's target shield, which is a shield that makes it easier to parry, is about 12 frames. Dark Souls 1's target shield is 8 frames, and Dark Souls 1 regular shields are about 6 frames. So it's only gotten easier, and probably for good reason. And honestly, I think this is a very neat way to handle parry timing and difficulty selection. So kudos to Respawn. Good job, Respawn. Your midichlorians are very high this day. You are a very useful Jedi. There are some issues I had with the parries in the game though. You can't parry after initiating a swing animation, which felt really nice in Sekiro when you recognized their hit was gonna land first. You think a Jedi could see like a moment into the future during a fight and be rewarded for parrying or something? 2, while holding block, you can repress block to punish an enemy mid-combo, but it feels like there's less of a parry window, as if it's some kind of anti-spam mechanic involved. In similar games, if you spam block, the parry window becomes smaller and smaller, so maybe that's the thing that's going on. But it seems tighter even if you're not spamming block. No, I couldn't confirm this with data, so I'm probably just a fraud, but I just felt it while testing it. No, I'm probably drunk. Next issue I had was with posture. Or wait, no, I didn't have any issue with posture. The defense bar is pretty much exactly the same as Sekiro's posture bar. You beat them off and then you finish them off. And this is all well and good, other than maybe that it's exactly the posture bar with nothing new. Posture check. Oh, look at that, you can do a wraith thingy. Wow. One of the bigger problems with combat that really falls apart is when you're fighting groups of enemies or beasts. In group fights, enemy AI can really wig out and it feels more chaotic than it probably should. But it's fine, you can just spam dodge and you'll get out no problem. Beasts or animals sometimes have awkward shapes and sizes, and some hits may feel like they should hit but don't. On the flip side, some enemy hitboxes are really disjointed, so even when you look clear of an attack, it'll snap you back into where it needs you to be in a really jarring, janky manner. Now I'm here. Double-bladed lightsabers are supposed to be good for crowd control, but for some reason they nerf the damage of a lightsaber on them. Like, the damage is really low on a double-bladed lightsaber. I'm not sure why. But the double-bladed lightsaber doesn't really feel useful until you get, like, the damage upgrade or a couple of the combos. But at least you can do Darth Maul things. Also, jumping into a group of enemies with a double-bladed lightsaber opens you up to counterattacks, since enemies will just parry you mid-combo. You might as well just use a single-bladed lightsaber and divide and conquer. The single-target combat is mostly fine, if not kind of the samey throughout the game. The biggest disappointment I had in this game was the lack of stats. Like I said earlier in the Sekiro comparison, this game may work in that it doesn't have any statistics or builds, as long as it adds more combat or force abilities next time. But man, this would have been the perfect game to like have your own build, complete with light and dark force power options, ranged weapons, specking for strength to have some big dick swings and demolish posture bars, a speed build where your swing animations are faster and you get bonuses for parrying or some crap, or a mind build, unlimited power, motherfucker. Maybe let players combine force powers, you know, like mixing force push and force lightning. And add armor too. You could range from a small pauldron found off an elite stormtrooper to fully wearing Sith Inquisitor plate armor, or some old mossy clone trooper equipment, or Jedi robes from before Order 66. Maybe make those lightsaber hilt pieces you find actually do something meaningful or do anything. They look cool, but like seriously, why don't all these lightsaber parts have some bonus or ability? Like +3 strength or -3 agility or +5 dark side force power and -33% HP. Just like something. And hey, why no blasters or heavy weapons? Stormtroopers are dropping E11s left and right. Why can't I grab one? It's not the Jedi way or some crap. Cal Jackson Imperial Walker and murders so many people with the biggest heavy laser cannons that can be used for planetary warfare, but can't pick up a free T-21 just laying on a weapon rack. Hell, isn't it also against the Jedi way to murder as the first option, period? Why does he have no pacification abilities? Oh, I guess he has slow. But like canonically, Cal is slowing stormtroopers so he can stab them in the back for XP. Pretty silly of Cal to not even keep a blaster or pistol or some grenades. I don't know, like give him a blaster or a tool from when he worked in the salvage yards. Give him a plasma cutter. I mean, Seer did it, and look, she's shooting and slicing, and she's badass. Oh shit, she just stabbed that guy in the dick. A fully realized ranged class combined with your force powers would be an awesome addition to any future game in the series. I don't think we've ever seen a game where you use a lightsaber and a blaster with force powers, but man, that'd be something else.
I thought Jedi were powerful.
So yeah, there's no dark or light side dichotomy, both in force powers and story decisions. The story kind of implies that Cal may eventually be drawn to the dark side if he gets captured or something, but there are no choices that you get realistically that matter.
Oh, I don't really have a choice. Cal, as long as you're alive, you will always have a choice.
It's your choice.
Your very few dialogue choices in the game have no impact on anything unless you consider hearing one line of dialogue over the other impactful. This is why I don't understand comments like this. This is nothing like KOTOR. The lack of dark and light side powers leaves a lot to be desired when you're a force user with a lightsaber, but you can only use the telekinetic powers and a stasis, which by the way, the slow is OP. Though Cal is very much a light side character, there are no options to pacify enemies aside from freezing and skipping them altogether. Unless you're in a walker, then he's a guerrilla fighter. What is the graphical shit happening here? What is going on? But like there's some neat light side powers you could implement, like mind trick, heal, protection, making a distracting sound so you can sneak by.
What was that? That's nothing.
And why is there no stealth mechanic? You obviously want to copy Sekiro so bad, so just go all out. Or make something new like Force Blind.
Solar flare!
It would be nice to have lighter dark side choices in the story and skill tree. Maybe even have dark side choices screw up your face like Mass Effect or KOTOR, or your crew reacts to you differently based on the path you're taking, whether or not you're going down a path they may or may not follow.
No, I'm not just gonna stand aside and do nothing. You'll just have to kill me, but I don't think you will.
Maybe certain side quests or items are only possible to obtain if you're darker or lighter attunement with the Force. Oh yeah, have side quests. Oh, and don't give us the lightsaber right away. It's always cooler when you kinda earn it after a few hours into the game. You know, like up until that point, you can just blast people or dropkick them. In summary of the combat, they've got a good framework down that gets the job done. It doesn't need to be exactly the same as a FromSoft game, though it very clearly takes after Sekiro hard. I'd like to see more than just some Star Wars paint and basic force powers slapped onto it. For some people, just having the force and a lightsaber is enough to hail this as the Star Wars Dark Souls game we've all been waiting for, but I think that there's plenty of room for improvement.
I am terminating your life.
Damn, bro, you got the whole squad laughing.
This is where it gets bad. Most of your time is going to be spent exploring, backtracking, climbing, wall running, sliding, squeezing, swinging, ledge grabbing. Sometimes you do combinations of these things, like swing and then slide, swing into a climb and then slide, slide into a swing, swing into a swing, bounce pad into a wall run, into a bounce pad, into a wall run, climb, slide, bounce pad, bounce pad, bounce pad, slide, bounce pad, wall run, wall run, wall run, slide, bounce pad, slide, swing and then climb, wall run, climb, swing into a swing, wall run, a beef chili roll, and into a beef tacos, a bounce pad, into a wall run, into a bounce pad, into a wall run, into a slide, slide, swing, swing, climb, swing, slide, zip line, swing, bounce pad, slide, run,
pretty much everybody I've talked to about it is like, do not show the AT-AT for the first thing that we ever show, because we don't want to give the impression that we're, you know, some just climbing around Lara Croft game, because that's not what we are. This is a moment in our game, and I worry when I hear that there's, you know, like basically the first thing that anybody's going to see is not going to represent 99% of our game.
Right. We want to show them what they want. This raw, unedited demo that's going to prove that we're delivering the goods.
Let's finish this.
You do all kinds of time padding travel mechanics that hold no risk or reward. Sometimes you'll run into a cutscene boss where it doesn't matter how much you F up.
Kind of our approach is whenever we're doing a boss fight, we try to, we call them Star Wars moments for this game, or traditionally in games I've worked in the past, wow moments. And they need to provide a lot of spectacle, but also do something that's challenging and makes you feel like, you know, very kind of satisfied when you complete them.
This is where Fallen Order's biggest flaw is that the worlds and level design are mostly boring. About every 5 to 10 minutes, you'll run into a batch of enemies. Sometimes they're new, sometimes you've fought them ad nauseum already. But there's not much reason to fight since they don't yield loot, and the XP is insignificant compared to just scanning enemies, lore spots, fighting story bosses. You'll happen upon all the XP you need just playing the story. And the battles are easy to skip, so that's what you'll eventually be inclined to do. Hell, there's even a skill that automatically deflects blasters while you infinitely sprint. It's like they know people just won't care for combat at some point. Also, why does this only work while sprinting? Wouldn't this also be easier to do while jogging or walking? Like, whatever. So you're more inclined to skip enemies to get to the next handful of minutes of traversing terrain. Maybe you go off the beaten path and explore, and you find a lightsaber piece that doesn't do anything, and then you have to go back through and do all the climbing and squeezing and jumping. And you know what? Stig's right. This isn't 99% of the game, technically. But when the game tries to trick you into thinking there's fun optional content to do, you're gonna replay these world traversal mechanics and it damn near feels like 99% of the game.
Things are going well, aren't they?
No, this is just a complete waste of time. They put a little room here that's optional to get into that is a complete waste of time. Also, in terms of the placement of meditation spots in the world, I understand that this is the bonfire system or the Buddha statue system, but why can't a Jedi just meditate anywhere? Why are these context sensitive? On the topic of revisiting planets and claims that this is a Metroidvania type game, at the first planet, you'll quickly realize you can't access everything until you unlock certain abilities later. This is the push, pull, double jump, and the ability to climb different vine textures. Also, these are all context sensitive, so you can't just wall run anywhere or climb anything. Oh, there's a little thingy there. How do I get up there? Wall run. Or not. Sometimes you can't even grab a ledge unless it's programmed that you can grab a ledge, even though it looks exactly like another ledge. You're then told that you can choose from different planets to explore, but you can only go so far on a certain planet before you run into a wall that requires whatever upgrade.
Yeah, I can't jump that high.
It's an illusion of choice when the story is really quite linear.
So I don't really have a choice. Hal, as long as you're alive, you will always have a choice.
It's your choice.
You are rewarded sometimes for deviating from the intended path. For example, when you're first given the choice to go to different planets, if you go to Dathomir first instead of the other planet, you can't do much, but you can get your double-bladed lightsaber earlier. So you can do the Darth Maul stuff early, which is falling into a pit and surviving. There are also puzzles that you'll run into, which are just okay. Nothing really hard or easy, they're just kind of average problem solving. Only issue I had with the puzzles is that after a very short period of time in a new puzzle room, the game will spam you with notifications that BD1 can just solve a puzzle for you. To my knowledge, this can't be turned off and is obnoxious. The abilities you get to unlock areas like force push and force pull feel kinda cool. The force jump, in my opinion, would be better and less goofy looking if you just hold the button down and you jump higher. The arcadey looking double jump just did not look good in this game. Alright. But whatever, those are fine. But when it comes to new unlocks where like BD1 can open red doors now, or you can climb this texture now, those are lame. Also, Cal can't swim underwater until he gets his Phantom Menace breather thing, which is dumb. It's the same in Sekiro with the Mibu breathing technique, but it was dumb in that game too. You should just be able to swim underwater with a breath meter. And then your underwater breather lets you breathe longer, or infinitely. Optional content doesn't feel rewarding, unless you really are into the little bits of lore. For example, you can fight this optional dumb frog that you already fought before for one snippet of text, and a locked box that you may or may not have the scomp link to open yet. What's optional here that I haven't done? God, this is the longest level. Holy fuck. Oh man, I really don't want to play this game anymore. Revisiting worlds is generally a huge pain in the ass. Meditation spots have no fast travel mechanic, so you're running all the way through these planets again, including all those traversal mechanics that we were talking about earlier. The map kind of points you to places you haven't interacted with yet, but the time it takes to walk all around these planets, again, sometimes for the third time, only to discover you have to turn around and take another route because you can't get to where you want because the map isn't really always clear on what is the right path to get to somewhere. Holy shit. He's alive. Lock tight. It's from the other side. From what? And you're constantly rechecking your map until maybe you find a new chest or area, and sometimes you can't even remember how the fuck you get to an area in the first place. How do I get here? So you spend half an hour on a planet and leave with maybe 1 or 2 cosmetics. You might get another poncho or paint job. Sundari dye. That's pretty. That offsets my blue pretty nicely. Ooh, look at all these options. Got my pre-order thing. There's the original. Now look at all the ones I've found. Whoa. After a few hours of gameplay, you'll realize you have no meaningful loot to look forward to. Like, I could not care about what color my poncho is at some point, or how my lightsaber looks because it's so small it doesn't matter. The places to scan for optional lore was slightly interesting, but mostly not. It's not as deep of a lore as, like, reading items in Soulsborne games. And as for the health, force, and stimpec upgrades, you probably won't need them. Like, there's no optional boss that's gonna require huge amounts of resources to fight. There are optional bosses, but they're few and far in between, and they're enemies you've fought before, reskinned and renamed. 100% of the game does not feel rewarding, and it's boring to revisit the world. In a sequel, I'd like to see more interconnected shortcuts, less of these platforming and traversal segments that just pad the playtime. I'd like to see more interesting encounters, fast travel between meditation spots, and meaningful loot that you care about.
So we are looking at ways to make a replay have value to it with, you know, the things that make our design for the game work. But unfortunately, like in a traditional sense, like I said, it's not going to be there.
Also on the topic of loot, they really messed up on the lightsaber crystals. Once I realized there were no items, armor, and your hilt and ponchos did nothing, I was damn determined to find where each colored lightsaber crystal was. Like, that'd be the ultimate collectible at this point, right? Finding the purple lightsaber color would be the dankest reward for the most dangerous optional area. But no, you start with blue and green, and orange if you pre-ordered. Then like 2/3 of the way through the story, Cal makes his own new lightsaber, where he finds a chroma LED crystal on Ilum that gives you 5 colors all at once. Additionally, there is no red crystal in the game. This is like where you'd say something like you had one job or whatever. You place different color crystals around the game as collectibles. It's a layup in a game where you customize your goddamn lightsaber. I'm sure there's a red lightsaber crystal and like a purple, yellow. There's probably like a white and a black. Like the only thing I would go out of my way for is for a different color lightsaber crystal, which I don't even know where they are. Now for the story. You play as Cal Chuchestis, a scrapper who's secretly a former Jedi Padawan. The story takes place 5 years after Order 66, where the Jedi were hunted and killed. In these 5 years, Cal ages from 12 to 26. I guess the fumes from the scrapyard did a number on him. Cal accidentally uses master level force powers after 5 years of non-use to save a longtime friend and co-worker. He proceeds to not remember force pull and some other basic abilities. Cal also has visions of other people's past when he touches items of significance. This is to show past events for context and backstory, as opposed to watching a video of it or something.
I have seen a security hologram of him killing younglings.
Not Anakin. He couldn't.
The Empire finds out about the existence of a Force user, and Cal's friend tries to cover for him, getting murder-lated in the process. Cal tries to fight and gets owned, and instead of killing Cal, the Sith Inquisitors drop him into a somewhat survivable fall. A ship of strangers who listen to Imperial comms shows up and saves Cal. Seer and Grease are a retired Jedi and a perverted pilot.
Before you came along, all I cared about was a tight hand on a stiff heater.
Hey, Grease, you busy?
Radio call.
Well, I was trying to watch the, no, I'm not busy, never busy.
Porn?
You're welcome, kid, but I gotta go. I got a thing, so gotta...
He's jerking it. This is a boring conversation anyway. They need Cal to rebuild the Jedi Order by finding a MacGuffin that only Cal is able to recover. The MacGuffin is a holocron that holds an Excel spreadsheet with the names and addresses of Force-sensitive kids across the galaxy. It's not explained how anyone obtained this information. Somebody probably examined the midichlorian counts from a galactic blood database or something. Minutes after his best friend died because of his Jedi past, Cal immediately accepts and puts full trust into these strangers, and they fly off to the starting planet. Oh, and Cal already has his master's lightsaber. The rest of the game is Cal and crew following a breadcrumb trail to get this MacGuffin. Throughout the story, Cal struggles with survivor's guilt when he keeps remembering that his master died so Cal could survive Order 66. The big bad is Seer's old Padawan Trilla, who turned to the Dark Team during Order 66. Cal eventually starts thinking that if he trains children to be a Jedi in a new Jedi Order, they might have to fight a war against the Empire and people will die. But he disregards that and continues anyways. At some point you get a Night Sister goth girlfriend who is literally the best character in the game, but doesn't join you until the last act of the story, goddammit. The story culminates when Cal finds the holocron, and then it's stolen by Trilla. Then Cal and Seer go and find Trilla in the final dungeon of the game to get it back. For some reason, Trilla never attempts to get the information out of the holocron, and never hides it. She just keeps it in her butt.
I know the darkness that is eating you up inside, and every day we choose to either feed it or fight it.
It's too late, sir.
Cal defeats Trilla, and suddenly Darth Vader shows up, and you go on a wacky Disney ride called Run From Vader, but it'll be K. Cal is then stabbed in the heart with his own lightsaber, but it's K. Seer is thrown into lava.
You would be welcome to surrender.
Whoopsie daisy. But it's K. She back. Oh, okay. That doesn't make any sense.
Take those children.
Seer uses a force field thing, and then everyone gets out safe with a holocron. Cal now finally realizes that any kids he indoctrinates as a Jedi will probably fight a war with the Empire, and he decides that he doesn't want that responsibility on his hands. So he destroys the holocron and it literally just rolls into the credits from there. They make it very clear throughout this journey that Cal is the only person qualified to hunt this thing down.
It requires someone strong in the Force to pass its test.
And since you're not a Jedi anymore, that's why you need me.
The Empire didn't have a lead on it and would not have found it had Cal not started looking for it, so if Cal did nothing, it would have been fine. So the ending's dumb. Also, we know there's no Jedi Order established in Episode 4, so like, we knew there wouldn't be a Jedi Order from the start. It's kind of like Rogue One's story. You already know they get the Death Star plans, so you're just kind of along for the ride. Oh hey, Vader shows up in that thing too. It's like Fallen Order, just the video game version of Rogue One. In summary, Cal wants to rebuild the Jedi Order, remembers old Force powers, gets the MacGuffin, realizes that people die in war, then destroys the MacGuffin that might help overthrow the Empire, which the Rebellion does a generation later with no help from these assholes.
I mean, when it works, I like it, but it seems like it works. It's broken more than it's working.
Right now, yes.
Lack of polish. It can't be ignored that you'll run into a number of bugs and glitches when you play the game in its current state, like pushing enemies over cliffs, but they stop in midair and fall straight down, troops getting dropped off in the middle of a fight and immediately starting a conversation, random launches off of terrain, big grab hitboxes on enemies, BD1 scan being broken for over 20 minutes, BD1 doesn't jump into boxes underwater, but the box still shakes like it does, random audio glitches. What the fuck was that sound? Animation goofs, and I could go on. So I will.
How did someone sneak in?
How nice of you to let me cheese your monsters.
You alright?
His lightsaber's on his butt.
Well done.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Friends of mine.
Well, watch the lightsaber. Aha. Totally reset him if you're up here. Okay. Is she broken? You know what? Your booty's clipping through your cape. There's something going on.
Advance on the traitor.
Oh, what the fuck?
Someone? Anyone? Help!
What the fuck? Did I just close the...
Unessential.
A weak blow.
Oh!
How's it feel to be hunted?
Oh no! I'm falling! Oh no! I'm falling! There's not water here. It's gonna break. What? What?
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
But you get the idea. If you play this game, you will run into something. It's usually nothing game-breaking, but it supports the fact that this game was clearly pushed out before they could fine-tune things. And this is probably on EA and Disney, not Respawn. Before I go on and list some final nitpicks, I do want to state some great things in this game. There are some pretty cool transition sequences in the story. This happens 2 or 3 times. Using your lightsaber as a torch is kinda cool. Night Sister Goth Girlfriend.
I take my steak rare.
Ooh, the game looks and sounds really good. Interesting new enemies like the ram worm. The bestiary is nice, but I want to be able to rotate the models. ATSD pilots jump out to fight after the vehicles are downed. Hijacking security droids is really very fun. BD1 adorable. Grab some seat.
Shut that thing off and grab some seat.
This entire scene. Yeah, just keep playing that one guy's yeah over and over.
Everyone! We've lost comrades, friends,
Yeah.
family to the Empire.
Who is that? And rocket troopers are the greatest enemies of all time. Those are 3 rocketeers shooting a ram worm.
Attack the enemy.
Hi. It's the rocket launcher. I don't know what's going on. Nitpicks. Make cutscenes skippable. And as a side note, the speedrun for this game is way longer due to unskippable cutscenes. Now I've been talking with runners for this game, and they're seriously demotivated to do runs of this game. There's some really cool tricks in the run, so it'd be really nice if the cutscenes were skippable. Cal runs like Lupin the Third. I couldn't decide if this was a nitpick or if I liked it. Deloading corpses in 2019. Why can't I fight or meet this cool guy? He just kind of lurks and watches you learn how to do the wall run, but that's it. This guy's dope. I want his secret loot. It's probably an awesome poncho. NPC faces clip into the 3D map. Cal should be 300% dead from this. And this. And this. Alright, I'm still falling. Oh, okay.
Force is with me.
And this. Still not doing anything. And this.
Ready for a swim, BD?
Beep boop beep. That would really hurt. And this, like, what the hell? Imperial probe droids breathing in before shooting looks cartoony as hell and makes no sense. You have to sit through this entire animation of Cal checking out his lightsaber every time you visit a workbench. He does this even if you change nothing to your lightsaber. Way too much shit talk from enemies that don't fit the situation.
Let's end it.
Deal with me now, Jedi.
Okay.
Your turn. I can take you out, no problem. I'll be right behind you. You can't overpower us. Just give up.
Come on, don't let him get you. We'll win easy.
Okay.
Let's take him on. Let's take go, scum.
Alright.
Don't let him do that. My time to shine.
My time to shine.
Oh, you're dead when You'll have to try harder.
Come on, then. What? How about you? You are indeed brave tonight, but the fight is mine. Oh, had enough, eh?
In closing, this game feels like it has an identity crisis. Like it pulls from some aspects of different games here and there, but it just doesn't stick together well. There's a sort of empty feeling to everything you're doing. It feels like someone took pizza, ice cream, and a handle of whiskey and mixed it up in a bowl, and then threw that all away and said, here, play this game. Fallen Order's biggest downfall is that it can be boring with padded game time, and the combat doesn't go as deep as it could have. On top of all that, the story really wasn't that meaningful. There's nothing to sink your teeth into in this game. It's a one-shot AAA story with little to no optional content, or incentive to do what little optional content there is. Some other stuff I'd like to see in a sequel: a fully fleshed out stat system. Your hilt pieces have stat buffs or debuffs, as well as armor and accessories. A ranged weapon system, less focus on world traversal and more focused on creating interesting and interconnecting level designs with dangerous and creative encounters with enemies and bosses. And on the note of interesting encounters, loot that matters, a reason to go to these areas. And on that note, more optional content in optional areas. PvP or a dueling system, and more fun with object physics. Go full Force Unleashed or Breath of the Wild with this stuff. I think they have a good framework for an amazing sequel, and I want to see Respawn get another crack at this. I'd recommend this game to people who enjoy Uncharted or modern Tomb Raider style games, but not so much those looking for that Z-targeting Souls-like combat. If you're just a Star Wars fan and not really a gamer, I'd just recommend watching a YouTube movie of all the cutscenes. I give this game 21 ponchos out of 71 Sekiros.
Stig, very excited to get a single-player Jedi game, Jedi Outcast Academy and The Force Unleashed similarly redefined Jedi gameplay in the past. Are there any standout lessons of do's and don'ts that the team took from those games when designing the gameplay of Fallen Order?
No, I wouldn't say there was.
All right.
I think I'm done.